I'm Dr. Bart Rademaker, prescription for your transformation, real people, real conversations, and real success. And we are the product of the environment around us. We are the product of all the experiences we've had over the years. And so the question that arises for us is, how well are we on our path for our own destiny? What is it that we're choosing to do? And in fact, what is it that we're choosing not to do? And so to get clarity of those different things, you really want a coach. You really want somebody out there, because the benefit of that person is that they're not you. They can see the things that you can't see. They have the mile high view of your world that you simply cannot see. And so one of the cool things that has happened over the last, say, 20, 30 years, mainly because of some amazing individuals like Tony Robbins, Jim Rohn, is that there's a new profession out there that's coaching. And it's important that everyone has a coach. It really is. Because your family, your friends, perhaps your boss, they're all good people, well-intended people, but they're not your coach. They can't be your coach. They're too close to your life to be able to do that. But one of the biggest challenges that coaches have is they're not necessarily great business people. They're not necessarily great business minds. And so it's important to have someone that has a phenomenal business mind. And we're looking at her right now. That's Kira Palme, to help people understand how to build their business. And so I'm excited and delighted to be talking to you today. You've got an amazing background, and we want to hear what your insights are and what are the specific things that you look at to help people grow their business. So welcome.
Awesome. Thanks, Bart. Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
So tell me, what is it that you do?
So I help coaches attract clients, and we do that using social media marketing. But from there, what we do is we set up a marketing funnel, which is just a geeky word for a follow-up sequence that can take people off of social media and lead them into an experience where you can build a relationship with them, add value to them, and then it creates a pull for those people to convert from leads into clients. So it's not going to be push marketing where you're just like, hey, buy my shit. But it's more of a pull. And that's what I love to create for my clients, because really I feel like my job is just help them help more people. And that's exactly how we do it.
I have to admit something, Kira, is that that's perhaps the best explanation I've ever heard about ClickFunnels. It's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
Yes. And because here's the thing, is that you're so right. Traditional marketing is that push marketing.
Yeah.
Traditional marketing is, get in your face. I can't tell you how many phone calls I get every single day. In fact, I was walking by the supermarket today, and some dude in a pickup truck stopped me and said, hey, you're the kind of guy that I think would want, a whole entertainment studio. And says, yeah, you need one of these things. I got a best deal for you today. It's like,
oh my
dude,
God.
stop pushing me. I don't want this shit. So,
yeah, you're definitely going to trust a guy in a parking lot.
Exactly. And so that's the big thing with marketing in general. And who do you get to trust? But I like the idea of creating this sort of ClickFunnel process, where then you really get the clients, if I understand the process correctly, you're really getting people engaged into something that they really want. Just as you and I know, 3% of the people are always already interested in something. And then when you just lead them the way, then magic happens, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's totally cool. And I mean, you can do this with ClickFunnels, which is just a software that helps you create these landing pages. And so if anyone listening doesn't know what ClickFunnels or landing pages are, they're just simply those pages that you land on, and it's like, hey, grab this really cool free guide, or it's a free gift. And that page should really compel you to enter your email and get that free thing, which is called a lead magnet or a freebie or whatever you want to call it. But ClickFunnels is basically a service, a software that you can use to easily build out those landing pages so that you don't need to code all these websites on your own. So it's definitely one of the really awesome sorts of technologies you can use. There's lead pages, there's Entreport, there's Unbounce, there's all these different things, but whichever service you decide to go with, you want to make sure that what you're offering is appealing to your ideal client avatar, and then you just want to give to them. You want to add value to them before you ask for anything, because your prospects need to know, like, and trust you. And if you don't meet those three factors, just like Bart said, like some dude in the parking lot with a pickup truck, like, why should anyone trust this guy? So when you can really demonstrate your value in the marketplace by simply giving them value for free without asking for anything yet, it will really create a desire for them to be pulled into wanting to become clients. So yeah, it's super fun.
I'm hoping that you have your own seminars, because the way that you speak is perhaps the clearest I've heard, in a while. And I think that's important for most of us. And that's one of the things that I like to focus on this platform, is simply the stuff that you don't know that's going to make the difference. It's that the lack of knowledge, or or something else, the lack of clarity. And you're extremely clear in this. And so before we started the interview, we were talking about clarity. And where does that fit in that process, or that engagement that you have with people? Because it's a critical part.
Yeah, it's a critical part, and it's the first part, Bart, because I would not allow any of my clients, or I would not encourage anyone, whether they're a client or not, to build out all these marketing systems if they didn't know what the hell they were offering to the world. So I need to know, out of integrity and everything, that a coach knows what they're actually going to offer. And I always tell coaches to think of themselves as problem solvers. Like, you're solving a problem, and people have wounds, and they need those wounds to be healed. And so we need clarity on how you're going to heal those wounds. Just like, Bart, because you and I studied neuro-linguistic programming together, people will really move when they're at this rock bottom point, and they'll say, oh my gosh, I need help. Whether it be like they have stretch marks everywhere because a woman just had a baby. She's like, oh my gosh, I feel terrible about myself. I let myself gain 60 pounds. What was I thinking? Like someone like that, when they're in a place where maybe their relationship is on the rocks and their marriage is going to fall apart, but they have a newborn baby. Like, it's different scenarios like this where coaches can come in, whether it be a health coach for the first example or a relationship coach for the second. Whatever problem it is that you solve, you need an offer that's going to guide your client on a journey that will heal their wound. And that needs to be the outcome. And you need to realize too that your clients, they're not buying your cool features or your cool membership site or anything like that. Your clients are simply buying certainty from you. Certainty that you can solve their problem. So you need to clearly know the outcome of where you're trying to lead your clients, so that you're not just hopping on the phone like, hey, how are you? Oh, and they just brain dump all their problems session after session. It's like, okay, great. I know all your deepest, darkest secrets and like how screwed up your life is, but we haven't moved in a better direction. So with that being said, Bart, all of the coaches that really sign up to work with me, most of them say they need clarity. And when I talk to anyone who is afraid to become a client of mine, they're afraid to invest because they say, well, I just don't have enough clarity yet. And I'm sure that you hear this all the time as well, Bart. I mean, it's just something I hear all the time. I need clarity before I can do this. I need clarity before I can do that. But the truth is, clarity comes from a decision. It comes from taking an objective look at what problems you're amazing at solving and which ones you could talk about until you're blue in the face, where like to the point of like, if I saw someone from high school really struggling and they tried to start their own business and it tanked, and I just saw them in the supermarket and they were telling me that how badly their business tanked, it's like a part of me would actually be excited, because I would be like, oh my gosh, I know exactly how to help you. Let's set up this marketing funnel. And I would get excited. So with that came just a decision. even though you're multi-talented, most coaches are. I mean, we're creative beings, or else we wouldn't be coaches. We would be sitting at a cubicle. So take in mind that yes, you are multi-talented. Yes, you are creative. And yes, you do need clarity, but with clarity comes a decision to just say, okay, you know what? I know what problems I can solve. I absolutely know with conviction that I can serve the clients who enroll. I know I'm at least a chapter ahead of them. Am I a multimillionaire? No, but I know that I can help the coaches who want to scale from 5 figures to 6 in a year. And so I'm working with where I'm at. So wherever you're at, whoever's listening right now, just know that as long as you're a chapter ahead of someone else, you are an expert to them. And so just think about that. What problem can I solve? Do I love talking about that? Because if you pick it, you better freaking like it. And then just make a decision from there to kind of tell the world exactly what it is you're doing, and be able to describe the value of that, and know the outcome of the work that you do, so that it's not just some airy fairy, like live the life of your wildest dreams, right? Like that's really cool, but get more specific, because you're a lot more powerful than that.
So what's the problem? What's the problem with people and not being able to make that decision? And let me just share 2 things, because I like what you said about the lack of clarity. And there's this great quote that says, the road to somewhere is the city of nowhere. And you absolutely have to be clear where you're going. I mean,
yeah,
you're going by a certain map to get from A to B. And unless you don't know where that is, you're not going to get there. The other part is, perhaps part of the answer for people not making a decision is the fear of failure. And one thing that I've learned, reading the book Bold, is they have a great quote that in there that says, fail often, fail quickly, and fail forward. And so what are your thoughts about what's preventing, people making that decision? Because I totally agree with you. At some point, you've just got to pull the trigger. You've just got to go and then see where everything lands. So share your thoughts and your experiences.
Yeah, I was going to say that. You said you just got to pull the trigger. I was about to be like, you just got to jump off the cliff. Like, you just got to do it. It sounds morbid, but you've just got to know that you don't have all the answers. I still don't have the answers. I made a Facebook Live today and I was like, listen, I'm figuring everything out as I go. Like the live event, Bart, you said I should have one. I just hired a mentor because I was like, well, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. So I'm going to seek some help with this. But the truth is I'm figuring it out as I go and as I grow, really. But I would say just start putting yourself out there. And here's a sentence that I use. This is so valuable. It's the first thing I make my clients do when they sign up to work with me. Is I call it the success statement, where you literally just plug in, I help X achieve Y so that they can Z. So for example, I help coaches build profitable online coaching businesses so that they can finally earn what they deserve. And I know it might seem limiting. A lot of people, like me, for example, I used to be afraid to pick a niche because I'm like a certified health coach. We did the mindset work with neuro-linguistic programming, Bart. I was a Tony Robbins coach, a personal trainer. And then I was like, wait, what the hell? Who am I to want to start like business coaching? Like, where did this come from? But I just felt called to do it. And I knew I had enough knowledge to just start and help someone a chapter behind me. So with that being said, I think people are just afraid to put it out there. They might have imposter syndrome, which, trust me, I did for sure when I started my business, because I was like, I'm no expert. Like, who am I to claim I'm an expert today when yesterday I was like, I had like 5 different jobs in the past year. Yeah. But with that being said, you just got to put yourself out there, and pull the trigger and get over your ego, because at the end of the day, if you have this vision, that's your higher self communicating to you through those visuals. And if you can see it in your brain and you feel it, and sometimes you even get goosebumps because you're like, wow, I'm so powerful that it almost scares you. That's when you know that you need to navigate through that fear and kind of dance with it and have some fun with it. That's kind of, I want you to use the fear as your internal compass, to lean into it and use it to guide you forward. But yeah, you can't do that thinking. You can't get results by just thinking and studying. You got to implement. So at the end of the day, put yourself out there. The worst case scenario is usually not that bad. I mean, for me, the worst case scenario was that I just lost all my money and I would just have to move back home with mom and, swallow my pride for a while. And that's what happened. I mean, I was delivering groceries to get by. I worked at Home Depot for a little bit. I was a waitress. I did all these things that and I would look at them as sponsors to make my dream come true. I'm like, this is a sponsor. But with that being said, the worst case scenario is truly not that bad. You look at most of the world is living on what, $2 a day? Like, boo freaking who? Whatever the sob story is in your brain, just get over yourself and your ego, because until you fulfill that spiritual need that your soul is calling you to create, a part of you will feel spiritually suppressed. So, and how selfish would it be to not help people with the skills and talents you have just because of this belief that, oh, who am I to do this? Or I'm afraid, or I'm going to look dumb if I make a Facebook Live and whatever it is. Like, it's very selfish to make it all about you. So get out there, because the world deserves you, and your message is worthy of being shared.
And you can wrap it up all in one statement, in a sense, is that, who are you? Who do you believe that you are? And if you're something that's external to you, like, I have to be successful, I have to be this, I have to be that before you can do anything, then you'll never do anything. And, again, in the book Bold, they say, look, if you're going to wait till everything's perfect, it's going to be too late. And
oh my gosh.
And the other part is that, I used to hate this pushback or feedback that I would get from a dear friend of mine. And she would tell me when she couldn't do something, I'm just human. And it always would upset me that she would use that statement. And until I realized that she was actually just being the victim and excusing herself for not having to take responsibility for her failure. But the truth is that we are human, and our experience is human. And that's where we do screw up. It's where we do fall short, where we do have our weaknesses. We do have our faults. We have our shortcomings. We have all these things. And not to say that, well, that's just beautiful. I mean, that's just kind of a way to hypnotize ourselves into believing something that we don't. We just have to embrace, as you said earlier on, you just have to embrace your fears, and you have to embrace everything else that's true about you. Finding that authentic soul and spirit so that you can be everything that you want to be. And
exactly.
And that's why people like you are so instrumental in helping other coaches as well as other people to really begin to appreciate who they are and what their potential is.
Totally. Yeah. Thank you, Bart. I appreciate that. But it's the truth. I mean, we're all creative, powerful beings. And I choose to believe that story. I used to, in the past, choose to believe the story that I needed clarity. So I used to be a victim to my own story. And I would literally pray to God and say, God, can you just smack me in the face with a revelation and let me know what the hell to do with my life? Because I'm tired of delivering people's groceries for a living. Like, just tell me. And it didn't happen. And so I realized, well, shit, I got to create something. I just have to decide upon what I'm going to do based off of what I know I can help people with and what really makes my heart sing, for lack of a better term. And then I saw a vision of what I was capable of in my head, and everything aligned. And I just said, you know what? My business is going to evolve. My vision is going to evolve, and that's fine. But I'm going to start here and see how it unfolds.
Well, obviously you're doing the right thing, because just listening to you, I'm inspired and excited that you're out there. And who knows, maybe I'm going to be knocking on your door for some help. The other thing that I like what you said, there are two key comments that you said that I think are so important. And, every single day for most of us, I mean, we wash ourselves, but the whole concept of, brainwashing has eluded so many people. I mean, we have to clean up our brain. We have to get rid of the garbage, the clutter, and everything else, so that we can create space, for, exactly what you've done, is discover what that potential is. But the other thing that I thought was very important, this is very close to my heart, and this is not a political platform or religious platform, just so I'm clear on that. But everybody it feels the need to conform. And yes, we want to belong, we want to be connected, and so people like themselves. But there comes a point where you're just simply different. And I've been very blessed. I grew up in 5 different countries, and I've seen polar opposites of cultures and ideas and concepts when both were felt that they were right and the other was wrong. And so my belief, my mindset, if you will, is embrace the difference, because that's the beauty of the world that we live in. And so what is that important for you? How does that relate to the way that you work in helping people realize that that it's okay to be different and to embrace it?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it all stems back to when I was 16. I was actually diagnosed with cancer, which is a huge shocker. It seemed to have come out of the blue, and it radically transformed my life well, I mean, literally as soon as we got the news, it's like, oh, okay, well, let's go to the hospital. Let's start chemotherapy. And that was just the path that I took back then. And I couldn't go to school, lost my hair, at a time where when you're a girl in high school, like that's when you really are wanting to look cool, wanting to fit in. And there was just no shot in hell for me to do that. I didn't feel like I could talk to my peers. I felt like a dead weight if I did try to socialize, because I just felt like a damper, like who would want to sit next to the girl with cancer? It's like, the girl I was sitting next to is like, oh, I'm so upset. I just got in a breakup. And I'm like, oh, I'm so upset. Like I have cancer. Like, it's like, oh shit. So I just felt so different. And I never felt like I could relate to anyone. And so I had a me against the world mentality for a while, where I was very angry about what happened. I didn't know how to handle it. And I definitely didn't handle it well for several years, even after I was in remission. And I still am super healthy, and I plan to be until the day I die. But with that being said, I finally kind of woke up one day and I was like, okay, I've created this terribly depressed, victimized life for myself because I'm angry about my disease, and it's not even here anymore. I'm like, well, how can I use my differences to make a difference? And so through my tough journey of really struggling to get by, and I even told you before, Bart, like I was addicted to chemotherapy to the point that when they took me off of it, I would need to go to the ER and get morphine just so I could breathe without passing out. Like the pain was that bad and unbearable. So I stopped being angry about it. I said, wow, like that was a hell of a ride. How can I use this for something way bigger than myself? And how can I just accept the fact? Like, I was just like, listen, it's time to accept the fact that I'm different. And that's the biggest blessing that there is. And that's when I realized that, hey, I'm just going to pave my own way, whatever the hell that looks like. It was not graceful, not graceful whatsoever. I felt like such a bum when I graduated college, but was delivering groceries and babysitting part-time. And I was even selling tie-dye. I was like a total hippie as well. So my parents are like, what are you doing with your life? I'm like, listen, I'm going to figure it out one day. I know that there's something. I'm like, my higher self is calling me. They're like, all right, you go make more tie-dye shirts. But, I decided to use my differences to make a difference. And even though the path wasn't smooth, it wasn't as smooth as I'd like in the time, it's unfolding very beautifully. So if you're listening to this and you feel like you don't fit in, or you're misunderstood, or you have a different perspective on the world, that's actually the biggest blessing that you could have. Because if no one sees things the way you see them, that's what will make you successful. I mean, no one sees marketing the same exact way that I see marketing. Yep. Or like Russell Brunson, the founder of ClickFunnels. No one sees marketing just like he does. And that's why he's successful. And I'm successful in my own way with my own sort of community who resonates with me. But at the end of the day, it's such a blessing to feel like you're doing things differently, because you don't just want to blend in this oversaturated market of people trying to make it.
Yeah.
Your unique proposition will be your selling point at the end of the day. And I have that too. And thankfully my story that painful story that I went through, that's one of my unique propositions, is that I've been through that, and I understand what that's like, and I've learned so much from my journey battling cancer growing up.
That's awesome. And you're spot on when you say that, it's the difference that actually makes the difference. It's because we're so different, or can be different. That's the genesis of creativity. That's the genesis of new solutions. And
Exactly.
if we all conform, then nothing would ever change. And I always found it interesting. And sometimes it was self-conscious when I would see something different than the rest of the people. And I thought, oh, am I stupid? Am I moronic? What's up with me? Until the one day I realized, I'm just seeing something differently, and that's cool. And I still could see it their way, but I'm also seeing it mine, and I prefer mine. And let's see where that goes. Exactly. You have a different proposition that can benefit a whole bunch of people, and certainly is not going to benefit everyone, but there's people out there that's going to benefit from the different way that you get to think and view on life. And again, I just feel, let's embrace our differences. And not having to make ourselves all the same, because that's when we lose that creativity. One last thing that really touched my heart, and if it's okay, let's talk about it for a moment. And it's your dad. And here's a man, if I may say, made a choice and realized, it wasn't the right choice, or maybe the choice changed over time. And at some point, he really changed his life and found a lot of happiness. So okay to talk about that, share your story, and as a reflection to all of us, that if we're not happy with where we are right now, we got to take action. We've got to make a decision. We've got to do something about it, and find someone like Kira or other coaches. Make sure it's a great coach like Kira to change your life. But share, if it's okay, share the story, because it really touched my heart.
Totally. So I was telling Bart that when I grew up, my dad was a corporate PR guy. He actually, I won't say the company he worked for, but it was a large company. And he was just kind of miserable. Like, he worked his ass off. He actually wound up getting laid off because they don't care. They didn't care at those big companies. It's like, you're another number, and they could employ someone who just graduated college for half your salary. So they just constantly let people go. But he was pissed and he was miserable. So growing up, we kind of stayed away from dad. And I think a big part of it was because he was feeling inauthentic. He was doing work that wasn't really aligned with his higher self. And so when my brother and I started going to college, my mom said, you know what, his name's Rich. You know what, Rich, why don't you go get a hobby? Find something you really love to do. Keep yourself busy, keep your mind busy, and let's see what happens after that. And so my dad came home one day and he was like, Noreen, that's my mom's name. He said, Noreen, I joined a beer club. It's called Barley Legal. And he called me and said he joined this beer club, Barley Legal. And I'm like, what the hell? Is this the same guy I grew up with? Like, that stuffy corporate America guy? And somehow it was. So with that, New Jersey made new laws that made it a little more flexible for microbrewers to start their own microbreweries. That was, I would say, 3 years ago. They made new laws. And so my dad was one of the first in his Barley Legal Beer Club to kind of pioneer the way for the rest of them to realize that they could create microbreweries. So my dad created his brewery. If you want to look it up, it's called the Village Idiot. It's in South Jersey. Got so much publicity. Like, oh my gosh, it blew up. And it's because the beer is damn good. But really, it was something new and creative and crafty, and people were really into it. So it built a huge buzz. I mean, I was even in Manhattan having a cocktail with one of my friends around the time my dad opened up shop. And I saw my dad on the front of a magazine in Manhattan. I'm like, what the hell, Dad? Are you famous? Like, are you not telling me, like, how cool you actually are? I'm seeing him everywhere. He's on the news everywhere. But anyway, they just did business differently. They created a culture around their beer. And it's not about beer, but it was a craft. It truly was an art. And I was really proud to see my dad finally happy, finally in his element, creating this community of people who came for happiness. It was a meeting point in town for people to come and connect. And it was unfortunate. He only got to experience that for about a year until he actually passed away in his brewery one day while finishing up. He was actually brewing for a charity event. Someone got to name the beer after themselves. But it just kind of says what kind of dude he was. So it was unfortunate that he passed away so soon. But I was telling Bart, it was so amazing for me to see him pass away in the very place that he brought to life.
Right.
And it was at his funeral too, where all these brewers were actually thanking me and telling me, hey,
Right.
like, thank you. Like, your dad helped us start our brewery. Without him, we would have had no idea how to start this business. And now there are all these thriving microbreweries in our area.
Okay.
And my dad helped open up most of them. And it just made me realize, wow, like, I want to help more people just like he did, except it's in a totally different way. But at the end of the day, we're just bringing joy to more people through our own unique callings.
So I'm guessing that one day you might actually have your own, not microbrewery, let's call it macro brewery, and it's going to be instead of the Village Idiot, it'll be the Global Wisdom.
Something like that. Yeah.
So yeah, what an amazing story, and it's very cool that he found his passion, and
Totally.
I like the name of your company called Passionate and Profitable, and really all of this, as I started off this interview, is we are a product of our environment, and as soon as we can just be aware of the gifts that the environment gives us. There's that great saying that our worst moments can be our best moments. And so again, you've clearly demonstrated that. And therefore, as a coach, you are by no means an imposter, because you've done it. You've experienced it. You've lived through it. You've faced the challenge, faced the dragons, if you will. One of our friends uses that term, Brody Whitney. And
yeah, Brody.
Yeah, and so really, I commend you and respect you, and I love the fact that you're extremely clear, and so anybody working with you is going to totally benefit from your clarity, because that's oftentimes what we're missing, and that's why we have this platform too, so that I can bring voices like yours, so people can hear what they need to hear, so that they can make the difference, tap into their own authentic genius. So I want to thank you for today. I am Dr. Bart Rademaker, Prescription for Your Transformation, Real People, Real Conversations, and Real Success. I do have two last things that I want to ask you. How do people find you?
Definitely follow me on Facebook. I'm always making highly informative or just silly and awesome live videos every week. So just search me on Facebook, Kira Palme. Or if you want to grab some of my free awesome gifts, you can always check out my website. It's kirapalme.com, and you can learn all the wonderful things about how to attract clients and grow your business.
Excellent. And this video is going to be obviously available both on Facebook and YouTube, as well as on iTunes, as well as in a new app called the Expert app, and that's coming out next week. And also, just so people know, and as well, Kira, is that I'm also creating an infographic of today with your information, brief summary of what we talked about, so that you can give to other people and so they can find out much more about you and connect with you. My personal emotional currency, by the way, is to see you help other people succeed, and in turn, you get to succeed as well. So I want to thank you, and I want to give you the last word.
Okay. Well, thank you, everybody listening. Hopefully this inspired you to realize that you don't need to pretend that you've got it all figured out, because the truth is we're all figuring it out as we move along. I mean, even Bart is evolving into this new platform and creating a huge message, but he wasn't always doing that. So we're all figuring it out as we go, as we evolve into our higher self. So always listen to that intuition and that guidance. And most importantly, take actions that are aligned with that intuition.
Awesome. Kira, thank you. And once again, I'm Dr. Bart Rademaker, Prescription for Your Transformation, tapping into your authentic genius to live the life that you desire. Thank you, and I'll be back on Monday.